Let's turn for a moment to the New York Jets quarterback, shall we?
Yes. I'm excited about this clip. We played it yesterday on the ESPN.
Is he going to play this season? Is he going to? He is?
He is.
It should be interesting. This guy was rumored to be in the running for RFK's vice presidential nomination. While I don't know that he had the money that he wanted to spend, let's put it that way, to become vice presidential candidate, he did have the anti-vax bona fides that RFK found valuable enough to cite him as a potential. I mean, that's the way they do it. Joe Biden did the same thing to try and signal that he was progressive in some way when he was supposedly, considering Elizabeth Warren as a vice presidential candidate, when she's like, "You've never even talked to me. What are you talking about?" He did the same thing with Stacey Abrams this time around when he ran. He did that with Warren back in 2015 or 14 when he was like contemplating running.
Really?
Yes. And so RFK, when he does this, he's doing this because he wants people who follow Aaron Rodgers, and it's not because he's a football player alone. It's because he's also anti-vax. He's a true American who doesn't believe in vaccinations. He wants that value. I mean, so this is a political figure in this regard.
Yeah.
And he told the Nets that he would, the Jets, that he would lay low. And so instead of going on a big podcast, he went on a small podcast.
The I Can Fly podcast, which as of recording this has less than 2,000 subscribers on YouTube. But he's really, he wants his message out there.
They must have audio. They must get distributed somewhere.
I don't know.
Maybe it's a
not
Rumble
on YouTube,
show or something like that.
They've had Rory McIlroy on, the golfer, so it's not like he's their first big fish that they've got. But what I find instructive about listening to this guy is the quintessential Joe Rogan fanboy, the quintessential Joe Rogan listener. He says he's not a conspiracy theorist, but listen to what he has to say here. And he also says he's not a conservative. He doesn't believe in politics. But when you listen to what comes out of his mouth, you can make an assessment about what his politics are.
That's what I feel like Bobby can give us, is that hope that life can be different. And just the fact that I was mentioned, I'm sure people were like, "Oh, he has no, political experience." How's that worked out so far?
Yeah.
How's that worked out in our government? All these fucking bums who've been in government forever, who are insider trading like crazy and lining their pockets.
Pause it for 1 second. I just want to remind people that Donald Trump, before he became president, had never been involved in politics. And now his son-in-law, who also had never been involved in government or politics, who came in and basically became a de facto chief of staff in the transition and then became a special advisor, whatever that means, ended up getting a multi-billion-dollar bailout from the Saudis, just coincidentally. Never mind the licensing agreements that Ivanka got, et cetera, et cetera. So how did that work out?
Well, also, I'm going to be softer on his Kennedy assassination stuff the most, maybe. But what are the Kennedys known for? Politics.
Well, his assessment is different.
Sure.
And lining their pockets during their terms and post-career. How's that working out?
Yeah.
How's that working out for the average Joe, middle class or lower middle class like I grew up? How's that working out for those people? Not too good. How's it working out? Housing prices, cost of food, the inflation that's going on.
Healthy food.
Chronic disease that we have in this country. Homelessness, unemployment. How's it working out? As we give, billions of dollars to Ukraine to fight a proxy war. We have a southern border.
Sorry, like the housing stuff, that's all important, but the problem isn't that we're giving so much aid to countries overseas. It's that real estate owns our politicians throughout every level of politics, basically. That would be what I'd say, but sorry, go ahead.
I'm sure he'll mention Israel next, right?
To Ukraine to fight a proxy war. We have a southern border that's, being invaded.
Okay, that's concerning.
Listen to Mr. Weinstein on Rogan. It's pretty scary, some of the stuff that's going on, the different camps that are down there of individuals. Some people, Chinese nationalists of military age, other, South American, Central American people, kind of different ways of they're treated in their different camps, and a lot of scary stuff there.
Pause it
But
for a
just the
second.
countries in
I just want you to contemplate, what would be the age that you would imagine most people would emigrate to another country? Would you more often than not wait until you're in your 50s or 60s? Or maybe you would come if you were 5 or 8 and decided to leave your parents behind. Of military age, like, what the F does that mean?
It means he's a
they're-
hysterical, racist.
Yeah, well, I mean, but he's not political. He's not. He hates politics, and he's
but
not
what
conservative.
is it that we're supposed to be concerned of? Like, there is a secret army amassing within our borders of Chinese nationals who are going to somehow secure weapons. And what are they going to do? They're going to take over. What are they going to do? Crash into the Capitol building?
Or
and threaten our politicians?
Or build another transcontinental railroad, because that's what...
He probably thinks that was a false flag. I mean, the reason young men of military age are coming in are AKA younger men with less economic prospects in their country who are coming over to make a life for themselves.
Likely story.
Yeah. And again, this is a long wind up, but it just keeps getting crazier. I promise.
they're treated in their different camps, and a lot of scary stuff there. But just the country's in a bad place, and it's not going to get better with Weekend at Bernie's, who can barely put a sentence together, if that's even him. Yeah. It's not going to get better.
Pause it for a second.
Yep.
Whoa, if that's even him?
Yep, if that's even him. So it's
a lunatic.
The Avril Lavigne, Paul McCartney conspiracy theories that they got replaced
You know
halfway
what's
through
so
their
dumb
career.
about this one is
insane.
this one's so stupid. It's like he can barely talk. He can barely walk, according to him. If you're going to do a body double, right? If you're going to put in a fake Joe Biden, what would you build in the critique? The way that we're going to let people think that this is actually Biden's, we're going to make him actually look worse than the real Biden.
Look, fake Biden, your impression is not up to scale. So what we need to do as plan B is act senile.
I mean, but the technology isn't there yet, so there are hiccups, right? I mean, that's why he's slurring his words. They haven't perfected it.
So it's not. It's a robot.
Well, I mean,
okay,
I get it. I love if Aaron expanded on this thought.
I got it.
Barely put a sentence together, if that's even him. Yeah. It's not going to get better.
Right.
I don't think, with Mr. President Trump, who had 4 years to do it and kept Anthony Fauci in charge after his record on AIDS, with AZT, with all these other ridiculous, supposed pandemics that he was in charge of.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And how the chronic disease level, since he's been in some sort of office in the 80s, has exponentially gotten worse. Autism rates have gotten worse. Childhood diseases, comorbidities, just the general health and wellness of our society. Look at old 1950s and 60s presidential fitness programs where everybody's fit. Look at pictures
Tucker
of the
Carlson
beach.
originally.
We have healthy, skinny people, and now you have, a high percentage of kids are obese. High percentage of adults are.
I am sure, as much as Anthony Fauci set out to create an obesity problem that may have more to do with the Commerce Secretary in 1972. Nixon's Commerce Secretary basically saying we're going to subsidize corn so that we can help the economy by giving more money in people's pockets that they can spend, lower the cost of food. And how do we do that? By creating factory farms, by putting, essentially corn in one fashion or another, fillers into all of our food. You could probably, this stuff is not conspiratorial. You could see a direct line to that.
Yeah. And obesity rates, if you look at states that were over a fifth obesity in the 80s, it was Mississippi, and now it's pretty much every state.
And also rates of cancer are down. I mean, life expectancy had been going up since that time period.
Until COVID killed a bunch of people.
Well, also, and OxyContin.
Right. But he's hearkening back to a segregated time. Also, Bradley made that point yesterday, where people were not healthier. Everyone thought that smoking was good for you. few, not everyone, but there were a lot of people that
Asbestos
were
was going up in buildings.
I mean, ridiculous. Lead paint everywhere. It's just made up.
Morbidly obese. You had the majority of people dying from COVID had at least 3 comorbidities that they were dealing with. Like, we're not getting better having these people in charge.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So why not make a change? And I'm going to support Bobby and keep spreading his message. But the two-party system that we got in place doesn't work. Hasn't been working. Hasn't been working really since JFK was in office. And we need somebody who's willing to lay it on the line.
Pause it for 1 second.
Bobby.
I mean, here's a question. If it hasn't been working since JFK was in office, which is 60 years ago, why did Bobby just find that out 2 or 3 months ago? Why did he even attempt to run in the Democratic primary? I mean, go ahead.
JFK was in office, and we need somebody who's willing to lay it on the line. That's what I love about Bobby. Think about it. They killed his uncle, killed his dad. We know CIA was involved, right? I mean, like, they can't declassify it because it's so damning. We know the FBI was involved. Hoover hated the Kennedys.
Yeah.
Hated them. Alan Dulles was fired as the director of the CIA after he botched the Bay of Pigs and tried to get Operation Northwoods to happen, to literally start World War III and invade Cuba.
Mm-hmm.
He was fired. He was on the fucking Warren Commission. Alan Dulles was. As was Gerald Ford, who was the right-hand man of J. Edgar Hoover, who hated the Kennedys. Like, we know they're involved. But so Bobby loses his uncle, JFK, his father, RFK. His cousin dies in a plane crash when he was running against Hillary Clinton. Like, I'm not saying that was conspiracy, but it's kind of a weird coincidence.
Yeah.
Well, also, he was not running against Hillary Clinton.
I don't see where he even got that from.
He had an exploratory committee.
He had an exploratory committee, but it was unlikely that
it seemed like his life was falling apart at that time for a whole lot of reasons. And what I've read is, like, a lot of people were saying, hey, you should maybe stop flying because it's a dangerous hobby. People die from it. Like, I don't know.
He didn't have much experience flying, to be honest with you.
On the Wikipedia, I guess they say the family's like, we told him to stop flying and he wanted to fly anyway. So,
but to your point, Matt, I mean, you see how a lot of the stuff he says there about the JFK assassination, that is true, and about Dulles and about some of the
to go over it, like, Warren Commission is a joke. The stuff about Dulles being on it, that is weird. The FBI being involved, like, my personal opinion, and, like, look, you had access to Bobby Kennedy. I remember talking, like, he recommended the book JFK and the Unspeakable, which he actually blurbed. That's an interesting book, but it doesn't imply that he has any kind of direct line into the truth on this matter. I mean, even Jackie and Bobby Kennedy Sr. were pretty much in the dark about it. When Bobby Kennedy was running for president again, he wanted to reopen the investigation, which isn't to say he had, like, a really good idea of who did it. He made a Catholic, I forget what the guy's name is, but a Catholic leader of the CIA swear to him that they didn't kill him, and he did, but that guy might not have known. Anyway, so, like, I think if it was anybody, it was anti-Cuba CIA assets that killed Kennedy. So I don't really say, like, you can't really say the FBI was involved. To the best of my reading, the FBI may have been involved in, like, a cover-up. But anyway, like, I don't think Bobby knows anything more than what is in books like JFK and the Unspeakable, or Not in Your Lifetime.
Well, I don't think he knows anything that is sort of concrete. There's no doubt in my mind that people have expressed to him theories, but
yeah,
why does this, what this sense that somehow if he did know or he didn't know, or just the fact that his uncle and his father were assassinated, why does that necessarily mean that he's the guy to do what with government? I mean,
he'll answer this, and it's dumber than you think.
Okay,
this is what I've just the wind up. I know is long, but
I gotta
this
say,
is
like,
why
he's not running on this, which is the big disappointment. Like, he doesn't talk about any of this stuff. Instead, he talks about how fat kids are going to bankrupt us and how the squad is anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
Like, he's not. This is his surrogates that get to focus on this fancy stuff that they're just hearing about for the first time in 2024.
right.
Like, I'm not saying that was conspiracy, but it's kind of a weird coincidence.
not really.
Bobby's in danger, like, he's putting himself on the line.
Yeah.
Why? Because he fucking believes in this country. He believes in this country. He believes in the good in people, and he believes he can make a difference. That's somebody I can get behind, who's willing to lay it on the line. Because that is, like I said earlier, the archetype of everything we love about Luke Skywalker and Han Solo.
Wait, what?
Everything we love about Frodo and Sam and Aragorn.
I couldn't believe this.
And Gandalf and Merry and Pip. Right? Everything that we love about Gamora and Groot and Rocket and Drax.
This man is 40.
Like, and
Pause it. How old are his kids?
He has no kids. He's unmarried. He's unmarried.
Why is he watching all this stuff? I don't even know half of these references.
That was it.
He's referencing Rocket Raccoon, which is literally an anthropomorphic raccoon voiced by Bradley Cooper, like in Guardians of the Galaxy.
He's
Like,
referencing Marvel movies.
Pretty fun.
Star Wars.
Groot is from the like the.
no, he's talking about
that's
Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy,
Oh
not
yeah,
Groot.
okay.
Yeah, Groot
yeah.
like the tree guy.
But wait a second. Who is the other guy? He keeps talking about these duos.
I know.
Who's the other guy
I
with
know.
Bobby Kennedy?
I know.
It's him.
Him?
I guess.
It's gotta be him.
Is he like? Is he
Samwise.
He's Samwise Gamgee. That's it. I just had to. So, what's amazing about how his brain has just, I don't know what's, this maybe is who he always was. And earlier in the interview, he talks about how he grew up in a really conservative Christian household and how that caused him to question authority all the time. Right. And you just see like the flip side of that,
wait,
where
he grew up in a very Christian
household. He has no relationship.
And so it caused him to question authority.
He has no relationship with his family anymore.
I see.
So he had a very, a public falling out with his family, and they're very Christian. And he says that this has caused him to go down a path where he questions everything. And you can see like that moment where he says some interesting things about the JFK assassination, or like that could lead you down a road where you start to question, like, what does power mean? What is the relationship between capital and our government? And, but he goes down into like, oh, well, it's Hillary Clinton, the big bads that killed her. And there's this one hero that's going to save us all. Bobby Kennedy Jr., he's the archetype of the hero, like Luke Skywalker, and I guess I'm Han Solo or something like that. And it's just amazing because
It's a Tim Pool brain.
That's what Joe Rogan does, though. That's Tim Pool brain, but that's what Rogan does, right? Where he takes people's natural, and I've seen it in practice, people who are just good people who are curious before, Rogan was notorious, but like, for being a disinformation artist. But 5, 6, 7 years ago, people wanted to question things, and they would look up these Rogan episodes where you hear that climate change isn't actually real, or because it's just the science is all lying to you, or things like that about the Kennedy assassination, where it leads people astray. Like, conspiracies always have little kernels of truth to them that get exploited, and then people's brains kind of get turned into mush. Yeah. So it's just hard for me to just see I was a huge fan of him back in the day, obviously not now, but the one white quarterback that stood up for Colin Kaepernick now being like, I love America. I love him. We shouldn't be questioning America. I know.
I mean,
he's done. He's
I don't
gone.
begrudge him his patriotism, but he has the conception. I mean, he at once thinks he has a special line to the truth.
Yep.
That he can see and hear, and I can only say so much. I'm just going to say it was quite a coincidence that these two things happened. I'm not going to go any deeper than that, but rest assured I have a deep understanding of what's going on and a direct line to the truth. And also, I perceive our politics in the same way one might a fictional Hollywood movie about fantastic, not even a fictional movie about like real people, but fictional movies about hobbits or fairies or talking squirrels, or like that. Like, that's the level of depth in which he is perceiving and selling Bobby Kennedy's candidacy He is just like a cartoon figure.
It's magical Kennedy. It's Kennedy. Magical thinking, right? I mean, magical Kennedy, but sort of.
Yes, sort of.
He's the magical guy that will solve it all. And it comes from the deep narcissism of Rodgers that he's literally grafting onto this situation where he felt criticized for lying about being vaccinated by saying he was immunized. And so all of this aggrievement comes from that. And it's like, you know, it's an interesting example of somebody, I think, you know, or a lot of people in this country who could have had the opportunity, and there was a moment where they had a curiosity about the world and they wanted to question systems of power. And there is a very well-funded podcast and other media organizations that are specifically designed, even if it's not intentional, but like the content just necessitates it, to lead you down roads where you actually aren't questioning power.
Yeah, I mean, Alex Jones said this about David Icke back in like the 2000s, where he's like, he's a turd in the punch bowl. Everyone's coming to this punch bowl to get the truth, and David Icke is discrediting it. Alex Jones, of course, plays that exact same role, and Joe Rogan is just a mainstream sort of version of that.
Yeah. And another example of somebody who did not become more left-wing by doing a bunch of psychedelics. All it got him to convince himself of is his own like magical role in the world as this great hero, just like I'll give you my sword, Bobby Kennedy, and making neural connections between movies that he's seen to real life and thinking that this says something about the universe, when in reality this makes sense to nobody except people that are just completely off the wagon.
And the theory of change is wrong too. It's not a heroic individual we need. It's building coalitions.
100%.
Yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy maybe is a new Camelot for the Kennedys.
I'm not, you know, I like the movie.
No, it's a good movie. I admit it as well.
I also got to say, there's a reason why I watched that movie, and it's because I have a now 11-year-old son.
Yeah.
So, I can tell you the one thing I didn't turn to him and go like, dude, we need somebody like this to run this country. Talking Raccoon, you know.
We need someone like Rocket Raccoon.
Talking Raccoon to run the country.
Look, I think we need 4 years of the Despicable Me guy to just get in there and
4 years of the Minions running the country.
Groot. So much fun, those guys. They're so much fun.
And we'll have a generation of Shrek rule.
Listen, honestly, how much more engaged would you be in terms of being a citizen if our president was a talking raccoon?
If they wore
who
costumes.
wouldn't want to check that out?
Yeah.
There's a primetime press conference. Thank God. I want to see the raccoon talk more.
Imagine looking at pictures of the Senate and it was all people in furry costumes.